Welcome, everyone. This is our newly opened podcast, Proud Old History. I'm your host, Hayden Carlini, and I am here with
John Scott Kendricks,
Evan Rena,
and Dalton Brown.
In this podcast, we will be going over a lot of key points that involve around Ole Miss football, legacy, legends, and unforgettable seasons. We will be sharing the grit, the heart, and the soul behind the helmet. We will also be highlighting the Rebel football is more than a game, it's a legacy. Today, we will be going over Hugh Freeze era, the Freeze era. We'll be going over multiple topics, including the Sugar Bowl win, the win over Alabama in 2014 and 2015, and the career-ending scandals. We will be also going over how we lost our bowl eligibility, and yeah.
All right, so my name is Dalton Brown again, fellow co-host in this podcast, and when I think of the beginning of the Hugh Freeze era, I like to start off with the recruiting splash, that he made when he first got to Ole Miss. Evan, whenever we were talking about this before the podcast, I asked you who your favorite Ole Miss player was. Laramie Tunsil. That's a Hugh Freeze, recruit. And, who can forget the best signee in Ole Miss history, having Laquan Treadwell, who was, a five-star recruit to where somewhere he probably had a lot more things to think about than Ole Miss, and we locked him in. That's a big sign for Hugh Freeze. And
so what do you think it was about Hugh Freeze, honestly? I don't mean to cut you off, but, what do you think it was about Hugh Freeze and the Rebels that he was able to get in such good recruits? Because I don't know if y'all remember, I think we had maybe 3 wins the year before Freeze got here.
Yeah.
Does anyone know what coach that was? Was that Ogeron?
I believe it was Ogeron.
I think it might have, but I remember we had 3 wins, and then Hugh Freeze came in, and I'm pretty sure we made a bowl game that year.
Yeah, we also signed a top 10 recruiting class.
Yeah. What do you think? It was about Freeze.
The pivotal thing that I think enticed people is when he started drawing the attention of the Nimdichi brothers. I always butcher their last name, but I think Robert, he was the number 1 recruit on some people's recruiting status. And
I actually think he was just overall consensus number 1 recruit. That was one of the bigger recruits that Ole Miss has gotten in the last decade.
Right, and to think when you got the number 1 guy leading your class, well, that automatically says, okay, well, something's going on here, And I think when you have the number 1 wide receiver, one of the 5-star wide receivers, that's also going to entice. You got defensive signees and offensive signees. It's showing that there's something moving in this program.
Yeah. So, what do you think led the movement? Do you think it was the McDonald's bag that actually had a little bit of spare money in it, or?
Man,
do you think
I would not say that was exclusive to Ole Miss.
Yeah, everybody's
in that point in
people,
time.
Man.
I really think that it was the coach. He had a lot of passion for the game. When he came in, he had a whole new defensive scheme. The whole thing about Hugh Freeze and the Land Shark, that's where it started. The Rebels were absolutely unstoppable on defense, and I think that goes back to Freeze as a person and as a coach.
Oh, he's so unique.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you listen to his just pregame speeches, he doesn't do any pregame speech like another coach I've ever listened to. He talks about, I think when we were doing our studying for this, the pregame speech we listened to, he was talking about the other team's coming out for hatred, but we're going to come out in love. We're going to win this game because we're going to love each other, and we're going to, see the things in each other that we see in ourselves to fight and, continue to go the extra mile for each other as teammates. And that's something you don't hear that in SEC football.
No.
You got to be tough, you got to be killer, and for him to have success but come at it with a different demeanor, that shows a complexity in a coach and as a person. He's more than just the guy calling plays.
Yeah, I agree.
I would definitely agree with that.
Also, we're going to jump into how he defeated Alabama twice. I would like to hear y'all's opinion on everything behind that. What do you think led it, defense, offense? What do you think gave him the courage to step in that position and take over as a coach, and especially being here new? And, he had, perfect position make players and everything like that. So like, what is y'all's opinions?
Does
on
anyone
this?
know, was it his second or third year at Ole Miss when he beat Alabama for the first time? It was either his second or third. It was very
It was
early.
his second.
It was his second
It was
year. He
20
and we didn't
2014.
have a good year that year. I think we went 8-4, maybe 9-3.
That's a great question.
But honestly, I mean, you can't talk about Hugh Freeze's Rebels without mentioning the defense. That really drove the program at that point in time. I mean,
Yeah.
especially when you're an Ole Miss fan and you go from Hugh Freeze immediately to the next head coach. Was that Matt Luke?
Yeah.
The whole defensive
It
scheme.
was.
I don't know if the scheme was different, but the intensity was way down. It went from open field tackles were not a problem to you needed 3 guys to get 1 SEC player down.
I mean,
Yeah.
Matt Luke was more of a offensive line-minded
Yeah.
coach, and coming from that,
And no hate on
didn't
Matt
work.
Luke, but it just the defense was not there, and that's I would say that's the reason that we beat Alabama, especially the first time.
Yeah.
You had a good quarterback in Bo Wallace, but it would be hard to say that he's better than any of the quarterbacks we've had since. He was definitely a good player, but at the end of that game, we sealed it with an interception in the end zone.
Yeah.
Which will kind of just go back to Hugh Freeze's whole mentality. I think defense wins championships, and he was a very big supporter of that.
Yeah.
And having a defense like that gives you a lot more confidence on offense. It'll help drive your quarterback in a
Right.
certain way because you don't have as much fear if we turn this ball over, if we don't get this first down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're going to go down there and score. They had a lot to work with on both sides because of the driving defense.
I think one thing that we also could harp on. See, we was talking about the attention that Hugh Freeze brought to Oxford, and having these
Yeah.
recruits. Another key thing to talk about that Alabama game. That's the first time College Game Day ever came to the Grove, and
Yeah.
so now in the Lane Kiffin era, we've seen what Oxford can produce, and you give us a night game with a big name coming into Oxford. I mean, we're going to sell out, and it's going to be a party, but. Back then, that was still something being discovered for at least College Game Day, and I think that really was a testament to Oxford's fans as well. I mean, they carried the goalpost out of the stadium, and I mean, that was a pivotal point in showing that, hey, the people that are behind the student section, I mean, we're in it, and this is a different type of era that Ole Miss is leading into, not what we're used to when just getting beat by every SEC team that comes.
Well, that was a hard time to be an Ole Miss fan. You come off of a lot of losing years. You get a new head coach, and you have a good first year. But I just remember that was a very difficult time. You're going to go stay a whole game against a big team. You did not have much faith in those days. The true fans, and when you finally got that Bama win, and I think 2013 or 2014.
2014.
I mean,
And
that
don't
was.
don't forget that Hugh Freeze goes in 2015 and does
Oh,
it again.
yeah.
The infamous popcorn tip catch. And I mean, that is just. He's the only coach in really Ole Miss history since someone that I really couldn't name that has consistently beat Alabama.
He's one of the best. I guess you could call it. Coaches of Bama when it comes to playing Bama. I think he has his 2 wins came from here, but it's a big rarity to find a previous coach under Saban that has the ability to then go and beat Saban. Even Kirby Smart at this point in time does not have a plethora of Alabama wins.
Also, I mean, we can go over also the Sugar Bowl victory.
Oh, yeah.
The following year after that, I mean, we beat Bama 2014. We beat Bama 2015, and then we come around and we're playing a Sugar Bowl in 2016. Would y'all like to talk about that?
I mean, 5 years after a 3-9 season to come out and win a Sugar Bowl. I mean, besides the 2 Bama wins, beating Bama is cool, but a Sugar Bowl win is one of the biggest things in college football.
And not only a win, it was a domination. We beat them by 28 points, and it just cemented the program with a 10-3 season. Just coming off that prior season, that Sugar Bowl appearance and win really just took the program in a whole different direction.
Yeah.
But
that was definitely the peak of Freeze football at that time.
Yeah. But with that win came the sanctions that came immediately after, and kind of just caused the decline of the program from that date.
Do y'all think that the quick turnaround to being an incredible team kind of put a bigger spotlight on Ole Miss? 'Cause everyone knows NCAA football has its problems when it comes to off-the-field issues, player relations. Ole Miss, when they're 9-3, I don't think is going to get those sanctions. I don't think they have the spotlight on them to be scrutinized in that way.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think you bring up a good point with that. I think them being in the national spotlight really propelled those investigations to be more looked at thoroughly, as opposed to say if they continue to be 3-9 the next season.
And especially those big recruiting classes, because you always got to take a look at how people are getting in players. I mean, I'm not saying anything about Freeze, but he had good recruiting class after good recruiting class, which definitely brings its share of skepticism.
I mean, I think, the SEC is, we're, probably the most traditional conference, and that comes with good and bad things, right?
Yeah.
And in the era we're talking about, respectively, Ole Miss is traditionally bad. And so when you start breaking those traditions, people, they don't know how to respond to that. And, you have number one recruits going to Ole Miss now instead of LSU or Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not going to, that isn't going to play out well. You don't have to worry about the team who ranks dead last in your division, because you're like, oh, well, that's just going to be a steamroll next year. But when these teams start coming up and beating you, oh, well, that was a fluke because that was, the big game. Everybody came. Well, then they came to your hometown and beat you again. And I think, now people starts, calling it a different, now the competitiveness and the skepticism of why are we losing this game starts to come out, and we start blaming the refs, we start blaming fluke plays, and we start looking for scandals in that retrospect, because, no one likes losing.
No one does like losing. What do y'all think about Chad Kelly? Because we briefly touched on Bo Wallace in that 2014 win, but Chad Kelly, his first year starting, he led the team to that win over Bama. That was one of his better games of his entire career.
Well, yeah, and we talked about the Sugar Bowl for a moment. I mean, his toughness, and honestly, I think it's kind of transpired if you look at it in the past few quarterbacks that we've had. I mean, Jackson Dart, Matt Corral, and Chad Kelly all being successful, but really tough quarterbacks. I mean, these guys are kind of redefining Ole Miss for a position that our captain is someone who is willing to be, first one there, last one off kind of guy, and they're willing to do what it takes to win. And that's carries on down, and I think that's what you have found a lot of success in us being able to, see these quarterbacks go to the NFL and us still have success with new names.
I feel like that actually says a lot about Ole Miss football and SEC in general. You see these quarterbacks, and I'm not going to say that they're the greatest quarterbacks in their class, but these quarterbacks that are coming in and they're beating Bama, they're getting SEC road wins, they're tough quarterbacks. They might not be pro style. They're going to go out there, they might have to run for 20 yards. But that's something that they're able to do. They're more competitors than quarterbacks at a certain level. And I think that that's something that Hugh Freeze kind of bred into his program, is we're going to go out there, more than we're going to play football, we're going to try to win this game. It's not all about it being right, it's about it being done.
Yeah, but, and I think Lane Kiffin and Jackson Dart, they had a really cool chemistry. But I think Ole Miss, that first bond that we was able to see, some kind of cool dynamic between head coach and quarterback, started with Hugh Freeze and Chad Kelly. I mean, again, Hugh Freeze is this, very in-touch coach. And you got, your quarterback nicknamed Swag Kelly.
Swag Kelly.
Came in from East Mississippi JUCO with a chip on his shoulder, and I mean, this guy's hitting middle linemen with his head down. Yeah, I mean, it's just like two differences, but they mix together so well, and that was really a testament to Ole Miss, because hey, now you don't have the excuse. You got Laquan Treadwell, you got pieces on the offense now that are gonna be productive, and we got to do something with it.
I agree.
Yeah, it's crazy that, Kelly came in, behind Hugh Freeze. I mean, that's great. And, I mean, come on. He had 4,042 passing yards in 2015, which is the second most in a single season for an Ole Miss player. At the time, his 50 career touchdown passes are tied with the fifth most in school history. I mean, I can go over some of his stats. I mean, we're talking about his first year, his completion rate was 65.1, which, to be honest, that's not the basis. That is above average. Mm-hmm. And some looks at it for a college quarterback, coming out of Clemson, transferring to Ole Miss. And, I mean, that's just great looks also. I mean, we're talking, we have 31 touchdown passes with only 13 interceptions. I mean, that's pretty nice. Pretty nice. Passing rating was 155.9. I mean, that's above average.
I did not
rushing
know
yards.
that.
Also, 509 rushing yards his first year at Ole Miss. That's a great look for you. And with 10 total rushing touchdowns also. I mean, what else can you ask for?
You can't ask for much more.
Now, those are all great points, but Hayden, I got a question. Do fans really give Kelly enough credit for being like the statistical GOAT of the Freeze era? Or did like the off-field stories, those overshadow that?
To be honest, obviously at the 2015 season, I mean, coming in as technically a first-year starter at the University of Mississippi. But to be honest with you, there was a lot of career-ending scandals.
Well, let's back up just real fast, not to interrupt you, but let's keep it with Chad Kelly because he comes in with attitude issues, reportedly with Dabo and Clemson, like you mentioned earlier, and so like we're kind of talking about this in-touch coach with Hugh Freeze that is kind of be more mellow than I guess Dabo would be in Clemson. So how do you think that's what Chad Kelly needed to kind of show what he could do on the field is just more room and less guidance or maybe less, oversight?
I don't know if you could call it less guidance, but I think he had different guidance because he always played. When you watch the guy, they called him Swag Kelly for a reason. He always played with a good amount of attitude to him. And
the trash talk is infamous.
I mean that's what he was about, and he did back it up. The couple of years that he played here, he was incredible. And I don't think that you can say necessarily that he had less guidance. I think that he really redirected a lot of that back onto the field, although it still showed through. There were plenty of off-field problems with Ole Miss in those couple of years. Also, side note, do y'all know how Hugh Freeze got his start here at Ole Miss? The blind side?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Michael Orr?
Michael Orr, I mean, look at that season beforehand. The season before Hugh Freeze came in, Michael Orr was probably the most influential player on that Ole Miss defense. I mean, it's crazy to see, but for Ole Miss to get what they call clout nowadays is off of a movie.
Yeah.
Like, that just says something. That means we weren't even known.
That does say a good bit about how we got some of those defensive players to come through a really good recruiting class. Is Hugh Freeze came in with one of the greatest players that we've ever had.
Exactly. And it's crazy. Everything was based around a movie and a novel book that was created. I mean, to give Ole Miss clout just off of movie, I mean, that says something.
Even if you don't know Ole Miss or Ole Miss football, pretty much everyone in the world, or at least the United States, know about The Blind Side and the movie and the story, and that just the national attention once again is what recruits look for, and they see that, and it's another great selling point for the university.
Mm-hmm. So I think, again, the off-the-field issues, that's probably going to be with any big program. I mean, you have so many, students on campus and so many opportunities. Your best players are going to have a lot of attention on them, and, you're going to find yourself in trouble all the time. We see that on ESPN every day. So I think some of that stuff is just kind of being understood. But, Ole Miss did have a few times where you're just like, what? What did the headline say? Like it was
Ole Miss
more.
ends up in the national media every 10 years. It's unavoidable.
And I almost, at some point, I almost felt bad for poor Hugh Freeze. Hayden, I think we were talking about it. What would you say? I hate to hate on Ole Miss, but what would you say is the funniest headline that Ole Miss had to endure during that Hugh Freeze era?
I mean, dude, there was a lot. I can explain it in the best way for you, but let's just It involves a stripper. Now, I mean, that's not a great look already, and you already know the media and the headlines are going to love that one. They're going to get every little bit of information or any bit of opinion-oriented conversation they can go off of to give some backlash on Ole Miss and the University of Mississippi football.
I would say there was a lot of headlines. That was definitely the nail in the coffin for Hugh Freeze. That definitely directly led to his resignation. I mean, besides the recruiting violations and all that, I mean, Ole Miss football had a pretty rough couple of years after that. You couldn't get recruits in, couldn't go to a bowl game. Why would you want to attend Ole Miss?
Yeah. I'm going to actually go back to the Chad Kelly issue at Ole Miss. I mean, after being able to tell, here's an example. In December of 2014, after he committed to Ole Miss, Chad Kelly was arrested in Buffalo, New York. He had an altercation outside a nightclub, and he was accused of fighting with bouncers and resisting an arrest.
Oh, Chad Kelly's fighting. This guy, again, you almost have to just, as an Ole Miss fan, like, what do you do? I mean, this guy's throwing for 4,000 yards, but I remember, this might have even been in season, but he goes back home and watches his brother's high school football game, and he gets onto a fight on the field, runs out on the field and gets into a physical fight during his brother's football game. And then, his best answer for it, I think at the time, was, I'm just defending my family.
Hey, I mean, say what you will. Say what you will. When the guy's beating Bama, you get a lot of grace, albeit you want everybody to be a good person. But he brought a lot of fire to the field. And sometimes it's just hard to turn that off. You can't really defend all of his mistakes because he made a lot. It directly led to him being out of the NFL.
Do you think with like NIL is now? I mean, these boys are, call them what you want, but there's a lot of money now, publicly known money going for, especially an SEC quarterback. Do you think a Chad Kelly could really thrive in the same environment college football is today?
I don't think a Chad Kelly's getting an opportunity, to be honest. I mean, when you can go in the portal and you can buy a quarterback, 5-star out of high school, 4-star out of high school, why would you go to Scuba, Mississippi to get some guy who was on the last chance U team? I think that he was in the NCAA at a perfect time for him to make his big move, for him to get his second chance, because I don't think that that's something that you would see all that often anymore when there are so many more opportunities. Like, why would you recruit? I believe that for sure.
I mean, you could say that, but then you could also look at the team nowadays. You have Trinidad out there. They took a chance on him from a D2 school. And
but again, I mean, we're talking about Chad Kelly's perfect situation happening. Trinidad is the same way. I mean, how ironic.
I wouldn't call Trinidad's situation perfect. I would call it incredibly lucky. In this year, everyone knew Austin Simmons was going to be the starter. He was going to start every game.
Right.
People thought he was going to be great no matter what you thought about him. Everyone knew he was a good quarterback. But Chad Kelly came in, and I don't believe anyone went down. I think he was the starter from day one.
Yeah.
I think he earned that in practice. I don't think that that's something that you're going to see. I think Trinidad has taken over his role beautifully. He fits the scheme. He makes all the right plays. But the sort of Chad Kelly situation, I just don't think that would happen today.
Yeah, with all the off-field issues, obviously we saw by time that that kind of contradicted his, 2017 NFL draft stock. I mean, come on. The dude was Mr. Relevant. But hey, his name did get called in the draft. There's plenty of players whose name didn't get called and outperformed going in. I mean, but also, when you think of Mr. Relevant, you got one guy that has been playing in this NFL, and he had, a lot of great players behind him. I'm talking about Brock Purdy. And I'll tell you one thing, Chad Kelly is not a Brock Purdy and does not have what he has. Chad Kelly, I will say, he is a nephew of a pro football Hall of Fame quarterback, Jim Kelly. Now, I'll just say his success at Ole Miss was one thing and everything there, but those off-field issues and injuries just impacted his draft stock, leading him to dry out. I mean, he had a great, I'd go with 2 years at Ole Miss.
A Bama win and a Sugar Bowl win.
Exactly.
You can't argue with results.
I mean, you can't argue with it, but I'm just saying that's just something that you leave for the legacy, and there's just no pastime for that.
So, we're talking about, obviously, NCAA fines, violations. At the end of Hugh Freeze's time, that was obviously the thing that put him over. But do you think that there was a sort of writing on the wall for something like that happening? Because you can look back at Laramie Tunsil in 2015. He was suspended for, 6-7 games?
Yeah, 6 or 7, they said. It was for receiving improper benefits, such as cars and free housing. I'm sure that there was definitely some money involved, cash-wise there. He was able to, return mid-season and help stabilize that line. But, the devastation there while he was gone, it was apparent. But he came back and played a key role in the Sugar Bowl against Oklahoma State. And he even caught a touchdown on a trick play, which something you don't really see too much.
No, definitely not. And after that was one of the first instances of kind of money exchanging hands, a little bit of foul play with the coaches, obviously. Of course, they had a hand in it. They always would. But later on, you saw the Kenichi brothers. I believe it was Robert, right? Stud coming out of high school, number 1 in the recruiting class. Crazy pick to get him up. His draft stock fell drastically because of the balcony incident that I'm sure y'all have all heard of.
Yeah, so that balcony incident happened in December of 2015 in Atlanta, Georgia. Robert Kenichi, he was an all-star defensive lineman. He fell from 4th floor hotel balcony. He was stabilized but recovered without major long-term injuries. But the problem is the police reported finding marijuana in his room, leading to a suspension from the Sugar Bowl. His brother, Denzel Kenichi, had his own off-field issues during this Ole Miss time. Also, together fueling media problems within the program.
And that was actually one of the things that brought Ole Miss down. There was a lot of off-the-field issues that were very, very prevalent, especially in the SEC.
Well, Denzel didn't play. He didn't.
That was part of the reason why we got
missed,
Robert. They kind of came as a package deal.
Well, no. I didn't mean. No, I mean Denzel
he didn't play in the.
I'm just saying. Well, he would have played, but he had all them hospitalization rumors, and the reasonings didn't come out. And he was kind of the emotional leader of that defense. I mean, that was a prominent. I mean, in 2013, Ole Miss was coming off that season as the number 1 defense in the nation in scoring, giving up only 16 points a game, right? And so for him to evolve into being the captain of the defense in a leader sense or an emotional sense, that's a big role. But he's not there, And then like you were bringing up earlier, man, Robert. His luck just was, couldn't be worse before the draft. I mean, he has that incident falling out of a window.
I don't know if you can call luck at a certain point. You play stupid games, you win stupid prizes.
I think the nail in the coffin for that, though, is just the infamous minutes before the NFL draft starts. You have the leaked video on Twitter of him in a gas mask.
You can't talk about Ole Miss off-field issues if you don't mention Laramie Tunsil. I mean, he was supposed to be a top 3 pick. Some people had him going number 1 overall. He was incredible on the field. And I do believe it was less than 5 minutes before the NFL draft that video surfaced, and it had him slide down to
13.
13?
What's even crazier about it is after that video got leaked, Tunsil publicly admitted that he had received money from staff on the Ole Miss team, which, just added to the turmoil of the Ole Miss's investigations and just the downfall that came with all of that.
So with all this coming out in the national media, obviously this went straight into Hugh Freeze getting fired. But how do you think that affected the program for years to come after that? Because you couldn't make a bowl game, can't get good recruits in. But it wasn't until probably 2021 until we had a winning season again.
Yeah, Ole Miss did face we did suffer, most definitely. We felt the punch.
Hugh Freeze getting fired was severely out of character, I would say. Especially because we were talking earlier about how he influenced his players. He taught them to play with grace. He wasn't the killer SEC coach that a lot of people were in that time.
He was posting Bible quotes on Twitter.
I mean, every single pregame speech that I ever saw Hugh Freeze, he let him out. They would pray in the locker room, or they would pray on the field, and you would go out and you would play. And it was startling when I was younger to hear that, especially with the leaked phone calls that everyone knows about, the escort services. It just seemed very, very out of character for Hugh, because that was not his thing. Especially when you look at everything that was ever published by Ole Miss, Hugh Freeze was supposed to be the most stand-up guy. Do you think that the team influenced Hugh, or that Hugh influenced the team?
With the legacy impact he had, I think Hugh influenced the team, to be honest. But obviously, there's been plenty of professional coaches and players and college players and coaches who have their own personal life problems that they tend to not really bring to the team. And that's where I'm coming from, saying Hugh Freeze influenced the team in a way, because some parents in the South say, do as I say, not as I do. Mm-hmm. That's a perfect example of a valid coach coming in, influencing the team in the best way possible, religiously. Positivity. You have everything, and you have these star players that are surrounding you. You're going to be in a positive mood and be able to, really lead your team with all the positivity and influence.
Yeah.
I would say that, especially in that time, whenever there was no money exchanged, legally, you were really doing everything you could to manage your players, keep them happy. It was just startling that the phone calls that were leaked with Hugh and the escort services, those were Hugh's phone calls. And I don't believe, what were they for Chad Kelly?
I mean, I believe with his resignation, there's a lot of, I guess, questions unanswered, right?
I would say so.
But, and maybe it's just with time, because now, the implications are kind of in the past now, and we see it with some more grace than we did when we were in survival mode and just really enduring it every season, 6-6 and worse, you know what I mean? But, I mean, to go back to your question, when Hugh Freeze came to Oxford with Liberty, right? Mm-hmm. And obviously Ole Miss won, but in his post-game interview, he was asked that kind of sort of question with, how does it feel being back, like the reception being here? How does it feel, being in Oxford? Do you, feel animosity? Do you feel comfort? Or how is it? And he actually got emotional in his interview because he was like, man, I couldn't have been shown more grace since coming back. My family, in the regard of the game, I hate losing. As a coach, I hate that I lost. And he started crying, man. And it was honestly, it shows a lot about his character because, again, I think it's a lot easier now with so much time that's passed. He's not really on the chopping block anymore like he was when we were running him out of town. But now we can remember all, like you said, all them great things that I think he did mean those with good intentions. Now, sometimes, like you said, you got to keep players satisfied. And when you got a guy throwing 4,000 yards and you are in the talking for a national championship, I mean, as a head coach in the SEC, I'm sure there's a lot of complex questions you have to ask yourself every day. But I think at heart, and to see him go from that and look at what he's done at Liberty and what he's trying to do at Auburn, I mean, I think Hugh Freeze is a good guy, man. Well,
you can kind of look at the Chad Kelly story as well. Chad Kelly was on his second or third chance when he came to Ole Miss, and I think college football was a really good place for these stories to happen,
right?
Because it doesn't just extend
look at
to
Lane
the players.
Kiffin.
Lane Kiffin came here on a third chance.
Ran out of Tennessee, right? I mean, they do not like Lane Kiffin in Tennessee, but I do not think that you will be able to find an atmosphere where you can find hatred on one side of state lines and then love on another side of state lines like you can college football.
I would definitely agree. So how do you think all of this happening, obviously we just talked about Laramie Tunsil in the draft slide, but he was not the only player that fell in the draft. I don't know where Chad Kelly was projected to go initially, but he did fall in the draft to get to that Mr. Irrelevant pick, and as well as Robert Nkemdiche. Does anyone know what round he fell to?
Robert?
Mm-hmm.
He was drafted the 29th pick of the first round. Okay. He went to the Arizona Cardinals.
I do believe he was supposed to go a lot higher than that.
No, he was expected to be a top 10 pick, a generational defensive lineman. He was number one in his class. So I mean, definitely, had some impact into where he was expected to go in most people's mock drafts, at least going into the season.
I would definitely agree, and that kind of seems to be a common theme. Ole Miss seems to have a draft curse. Very rarely will you see an Ole Miss player. I mean, Jackson Dart being probably the only one I can name go way ahead of their time in some people's eyes. Generally speaking, Ole Miss players going into the draft are going to fall, and that's just kind of their thing. So Chad Kelly was one of the interesting cases. Like we just said, he was Mr. Irrelevant. There were some analysts that projected Chad Kelly to go second or third round. He had all the necessary talent, but I don't think there were a lot of NFL programs that wanted to deal with his sort of off-the-field issues, and that also really led to his slide out of the NFL. I hope I'm not getting my quarterbacks mixed up, but I do believe that Chad Kelly got arrested very, very quickly after draft night.
Yeah, he was, I want to say, arrested on trespassing charges, like breaking and entering into a home.
I remember. He got really drunk, went to the wrong house.
Yeah.
Got arrested on trespassing charges. And this was nights after. This might have been the night of.
You just got to think, I cannot imagine what people who are close to Chad Kelly are thinking. This guy just threw 6,800 yards at a SEC program and has been, drafted to the NFL.
Managed
and we
to
can't
get
find
into
him.
the NFL.
I don't understand how you get yourself. I get you're Mr. Irrelevant, but dude, you're still in the pool
made
of
the
300 people in the world. I mean, so you're a special guy enough to have a friend or two, especially if you're going out. And they're just letting this guy wander around, I guess. Or maybe he's breaking away from his friends. Who knows? But my point is, it just continues the circus that he had at Ole Miss. You know what I mean? It kind of, it was foreshadowed. And the story it planned out kind of how you saw it was gonna.
There was always writing on the wall for some of these players, and especially Chad. He had multiple arrests, fights. He had his fair share of issues, and then it all kind of came together after draft night. I don't believe he ever got a start on any team in the NFL.
I mean, come on. Chad Kelly, Mr. Irrelevant. He was placed on injury reserve in 2017 due to a knee injury. He spent 2018, he was on the Broncos roster, but he did not see any playing time. He was also waived by the Broncos in 2019. So, I mean, there you go. There's 3 years. You look at him coming in, his first year being ready as a senior at Ole Miss, being ready for the NFL draft. I mean, you're looking great. You're looking good. I mean, everything. You have a great coach, and then you get drafted, Mr. Irrelevant, and then you spend the next 2 years doing absolutely nothing, just sitting on the sideline looking pretty and, having off-field problems. But shortly after that, he was signed by the Indianapolis Colts in 2019 and was released before the season even started. I mean, you got some off-season reps and workouts, but that's just crazy.
I think that's when he bounced to maybe the CFL for a moment. Mm-hmm. And almost,
which is a typical place for Ole Miss quarterbacks to end up. One of the greats we had, Matt Corral, ended up in the CFL. He's still there.
And this might be even a testament to Ole Miss fans, because I remember, Chad Kelly's highlights in the CFL being shown somewhere. I can't remember where, but shown somewhere, almost like hey, this is what that Ole Miss guy's doing nowadays. Is he going to make a comeback? I mean, people still root for him, you know what I mean? And if he comes to the Grove on Saturday, he's still, he's definitely one of the Mount Rushmore quarterbacks at Ole Miss. But to see what, again, just seemed to be, just a killer athlete, just an incredible talent, but to not be able to get past the kind of cloud that followed him, it's really interesting, And I think Hughes' era at Ole Miss is pretty much a big what if, you know what I mean?
I would say so.
It was really interesting to see the direction and everything changed so fast for a program that was literally on no one's radar, and then it have just such a circus going around it, but then crumble, and now it's just like a folklore. You think about it, man. You remember when we beat Alabama and you had Hugh Freeze? And
that's a good point.
I think on the field, Freeze delivered moments that Rebel fans will never forget. The back-to-back wins over Alabama, Sugar Bowl victory, and, some of the most talented players to, ever wear the colors. However, it also came with the program crashing down, and you kind of look at it and you say the cost of success will never come without controversy.
I would definitely say so. I would agree with that what if statement, because in a span of 4 years, we went from being 9-3 to having 2 Bama wins and a Sugar Bowl win, and then after that, it didn't end because Hugh Freeze was a bad coach. He didn't get run out of town for losing games. I'm pretty sure what was his last year? Does anyone know?
It was 2017.
2017 or 2018? Yeah. I don't remember, but he was one of the better coaches we've had, and the slide happened very quickly. It was a 4-year span of great times for Ole Miss fans, but that is one of the larger what-ifs, because he was going to inherit great teams for years to come. People wanted to go to Ole Miss at that time. Yeah. That was, in college football, you get the best of both worlds. You get a great atmosphere at school, and then you also get to go win games for a great head coach on Saturdays.
Yeah. Well, guys, that's a wrap for today's episode on the Proud Ole history. From legacy wins to off-field stories, we hope you enjoyed diving into the highs and the lows and everything between of Rebel football. I am your host, Hayden Carlini, reminding you that this is not just a game, it's a legacy. And be sure to stay tuned and not miss a story. And follow us on social media to keep the conversation going. Until next time, stay proud, Rebels.